Welcome back to Bonkers for Boro with me, Phil Spencer, and here we're going to talk a little bit about Middlesbrough's plans for the rest of the summer transfer window. There's only a week left before the window slams shut on the 1st of September, and for Rob Edwards' side, there's a lot of business which could still be getting completed in the days to come. Now, Hayden Hackney has been a big talking point over the course of this summer transfer window. Ipswich Town had come in for him. They had a £20 million offer accepted. He held talks with the club at Portman Road and ultimately turned them down. There have been suggestions that West Ham have come in with an offer as well to try and sign him in the final days, with Fulham also taking in that match against Norwich City at Carrow Road at the weekend. But reports from Scott Wilson at the Northern Echo has come out in the last couple of days suggesting that Middlesbrough are adamant that Hayden Hackney won't be going anywhere before the end of the summer transfer window. The report says that the Teessiders are aware of mounting interest in the midfielder, but they now plan to keep hold of him beyond the end of this summer, due to basically the inability to be able to replace him effectively. So I think, as far as Middlesbrough are concerned, that's a really positive thing. I think a lot of supporters starting to get a little bit anxious about the future of Hayden Hackney. He's been such a key player for a couple of seasons now, but also in the first few games of this season, he's really been a crucial part of the team alongside Aidan Morris in midfield. Against Norwich City, he was absolutely outstanding once again. And I think the feeling is that if Middlesbrough did lose him before the end of the summer transfer window, it'd be nearly impossible to replace, and that Middlesbrough's team would undoubtedly be significantly weaker as a result. So I think the interest is it is there. There are clubs in the Premier League who are sniffing around, but as it stands at the moment, Ipswich are the only side who have lodged a formal offer for the midfielder, which sort of suggests that he's perhaps not a top priority for these clubs in the Premier League. I know that the likes of West Ham and the likes of Fulham, they are getting a little bit desperate in the transfer market. They are really, really keen to strengthen before the end of the summer window, and perhaps that could lead them to Middlesbrough's door and potentially trying to move for Hayden Hackney. But the fact that Middlesbrough are taking such a firm stance on the midfielder is really quite telling. Now, it doesn't obviously guarantee that he will 100% be staying at the club beyond the end of the summer window. It does basically just mean that Middlesbrough will be, or they won't be pressured into selling him for a fee that they deem less than desirable. Of course, he accepted the £20 million offer from Ipswich. Reading between the lines, it's sort of saying to me that if someone wants him at this stage of the window, someone's going to have to pay a slightly inflated fee to get that done, due to the inconvenience that it would cause Middlesbrough. Losing such a key player at this stage of the window. That could mean potentially looking for 25 million, possibly even 30 million for that inconvenience factor. So it's certainly an interesting one to keep an eye on. A really positive noise is coming out of the club that the plan is to keep hold of Hayden Hackney this summer. It doesn't really seem like that's going to be the case with Finn Azaz. That interest in Southampton is building. It's Southampton reportedly gearing up to come in with another offer for the midfielder, and I think based on his performances against Millwall and against Norwich, it does seem like he's starting the season off in very much the way that he's performed in the last couple of seasons, with goals and assists aplenty. So that's one to keep an eye on. It does feel like that one's maybe a little bit more inevitable that a deal could happen. Certainly one that Middlesbrough should be keeping an eye on. And I think for me, that's probably one which I can see happening. I can see him moving to Southampton. The opportunity to move to a club who are undoubtedly among the favourites to secure promotion this season. Middlesbrough are going to make a big profit on him, and if he does go, our valuation is around about £12 million, which is likely to be a basic fee with significant add-ons on top of that as well. So that if Southampton do come in with an offer of that sort, then I can certainly see that being an appealing offer for Middlesbrough, an appealing move for Finn Azaz, who's reportedly suggested that he is open to moving to Southampton and that he would be interested in that opportunity. And so it could be a good deal for all parties. But of course, that would leave Middlesbrough with one less creative player. He has been an outstanding player for Middlesbrough over the last 18 months. His last 2 seasons with the club, he's got double digits in terms of goals and assists in the Championship, both with Middlesbrough and with Plymouth. So he would certainly be a big miss, and that could potentially lead Middlesbrough to go back into the transfer market to try and sign a potential replacement, someone who can reinforce those attacking areas of the pitch. Now, in terms of incoming signings, Matt Targett is set to sign from Newcastle United. He's a left back. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of Matt Targett. He's going to be coming in on a season-long loan deal. His contract expires next summer, so that could be a really solid piece of business. Left wing back is a position that Middlesbrough have been so desperate to strengthen over the course of this summer. And I think while Middlesbrough have been keen on Max Arston, who plays for Columbus Crew in the MLS, that deal hasn't materialised. So Matt Targett would be coming in as an experienced player, someone who would come in and really just be able to hit the ground running. He's got so much pedigree in the Premier League and in the Championship. A really, really top level signing as far as I'm concerned. I know that he's had a few injuries and stuff over the last couple of seasons, but if he can stay fit, I do think that he could be a really solid addition and someone who could provide great experience and leadership. And he's 29 years of age. It would be a season-long loan deal. If it goes well, then potentially Middlesbrough might look to pursue a permanent deal at the end of the season. You've got to look at the signing of Luke Ayling as a similar sort of template for this one. And it's kind of like a trial period, this loan spell. And then if it does go well, the Middlesbrough might look to make that move permanent next summer. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on. But that deal is done. That's one that will be happening. He will be coming to Middlesbrough. And one that fans can be very excited about, that we can finally tick off that left wing back from our list. Middlesbrough are also making positive progress with Kaly Sene. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A striker from Lausanne. He's a Senegalese. He's a striker who will be coming in on a permanent basis. I don't think, at the time of recording, I don't think that's a deal which is completely done yet, but it is one that Middlesbrough are very hopeful of getting wrapped up in the next couple of days. I think he's due to undergo a medical, and then he'll come in, because once again, a striker is a real position that Middlesbrough have been looking to strengthen this summer. We've looked very short in that department since losing Emmanuel Latilath in the January transfer window. He went to Atlanta United in the MLS for around about £22 million. We replaced him with Kelechi Iheanacho, shudders, and that didn't exactly go to plan, that loan deal. A player of real pedigree, you've got to say, in the Premier League and the Championship. So I was someone who was quite excited by that signing when it got announced. It seemed like a real move of ambition, but it just didn't work for him. He arrived and he looked unfit. He looked not entirely interested at times, which might be a little bit harsh to say. But he came in and he just sort of, it took him too long to get up to speed. And I think when you are only arriving on a 6-month loan deal, I think it's quite difficult to make an immediate impact. And for him, he found it very difficult. He only scored 1 goal, got 1 assist. I think both of them came in the one match that was against Oxford United. It was just a move that didn't really work out. So signing a striker is going to be, has been a real priority this summer. It's been quite frustrating that it's taken so long. There's been a lot of pressure on Tommy Conway to be the number one striker. He's led the line all through pre-season, all through the start of the campaign, and he's done a good job. He got his first goal of the season against Norwich City, and I firmly expect Tommy Conway to still probably be the main man in attack. He's been handed the number 9 shirt, which is a big vote of confidence in his favour. I think he will be a big player again this season. I expect him to get into double figures for goals this season. But I think signing another striker, perhaps of a slightly different profile, could be a really positive thing for Middlesbrough. It does seem like that's going to be happening with Kaly Sene, so that's going to be a really exciting move, and it'll be really interesting to see what he can offer Middlesbrough. Admittedly, I don't know a huge amount about him, but he does seem like a player who could be a really big addition, someone that Middlesbrough have been very interested in signing over the course of this summer. It seems like now they're getting very close to that breakthrough and actually bringing him to Seaside, but it'll be interesting to see what he can do. Whether that's done in time for Sheffield United or not, I'm not entirely sure. But if not, we've got the 2 weeks international break where he, and to be fair, a lot of other Middlesbrough signings will be able to bed in and have a couple of weeks on the training ground to get to grips with life under Rob Edwards as well. Now, if that signing gets done, Matt Targett's done, Middlesbrough won't be done just yet in the transfer market. Scott Wilson at the Northern Echo, in that brilliant report about Hayden Hackney and the fact that Middlesbrough aren't wanting to lose him, he also said that if those 2 deals are done with Targett and Sene, then Middlesbrough will be looking to sign one more player, and that'll be another forward for the team. So that's quite an interesting one, because Middlesbrough have been looking for one striker. That's someone to come in and challenge Tommy Conway in attack, but potentially they'll be looking for someone to come in and maybe be more of a versatile striker, maybe someone who can slot into those supporting positions, someone of a almost like a Morgan Whittaker type of profile, someone who can play out wide, someone who can play as a number 10, someone who can potentially play up front as well. There hasn't really been any names mentioned in terms of who this is going to be. I know that the likes of David Strelec, who was linked with us in January, he's been mentioned, but I don't think there's anything too concrete from that point of view. And to me, that suggests that potentially this could be a move which could be a Premier League loan. It could be something that's come out of left field a little bit, almost similar to when we signed Ben Doak last summer. It was a move that no one really expected. And I think when you are in the summer transfer window, when you get to the back end and the final week, you do find opportunities that do surface as a result of clubs developing their plans. Clubs in the Premier League, they report back for pre-season, they go on their training camps all around the world and they give young players an opportunity. They then start to develop their 25-man squad for the Premier League in the early stages of August, and at that point it becomes quite clear who is going to be in the manager's plans and who's not going to be. And that's when clubs in the Premier League do make decisions on players as to who's going to be available to leave permanently, who's going to be able to leave on loan, who's going to get the opportunity to move down to the Championship and get some regular first team football. We're sort of seeing it with Matt Targett. He's someone who falls into that category, that it's become very, very clear that he's not going to be part of Newcastle's plans this season. And so he's been made available for this move. And it could be that Middlesbrough are looking for a similar sort of move once again, someone from a Premier League club on loan who can come in and provide competition in those supporting areas out wide, number 10 as a number 9 as well. And so that's going to be a really interesting one to keep an eye on, I think, particularly with Finn Azaz's situation in mind as well, because if he is likely to move, I do think that we probably need another sort of quality option in those supporting roles, someone who can provide goals and assists throughout the course of this campaign. So yeah, that's going to be one to keep an eye on, certainly. As I said, Targett and Sene look like deals which are pretty much completed. And so I think this new signing, this third signing, would probably be Middlesbrough's last one, and I think that would indicate that Middlesbrough's transfer business is done if they can get that one completed and over the line. So I think there's also the opportunity for a few other players to leave the club. There's a few situations to watch from that point of view. I think Marcus Forss is someone who I'm personally keeping quite a close eye on. He's only got 1 year left in his contract at the Riverside Stadium. And he's someone who has just fallen way down the pecking order under Rob Edwards. It's a bit unfortunate for him because he arrived as a striker. When he played for Brentford before arriving at Middlesbrough, he was a striker and he was sort of supporting Ivan Toney. He was kind of the backup striker. He came to Middlesbrough as someone who was going to come in and kind of like hit the ground running and establish himself as the number 9. He was often played out wide. And I think what we've seen since he's been at Middlesbrough is that while he's a good player, he's a good finisher, he hasn't really been able to excel in either of those two roles. And I think we're seeing that this season as well. I don't think he's trusted to be a number 9 who will lead the line for Middlesbrough this season. I don't think he's dynamic enough or has the technical quality to be a genuine contender for a starting spot in one of those wide roles, those attacking midfield sort of positions. So he's sort of someone who is just a bit of a squad player and someone who I personally think could potentially move on before the end of the summer window. As I said, he's only got a year left on his contract, so this is probably one of the last opportunities that Middlesbrough have got to get a bit of a transfer fee for him. He barely featured in pre-season. He played that pre-season friendly against Hartlepool, which was very much the Middlesbrough bomb squad who took to the field for that one. Even so far this season, he hasn't really featured in the Championship. He just is just someone who's way down the pecking order, clearly not in Rob Edwards' plans. And so for me, someone who I think could potentially move on in the next few days. A few others who fall into that category, Dan Barlaser, he's really struggling for game time. He's only got a year left on his contract as well. I think with Aidan Morris and Hayden Hackney potentially staying, Abdoulaye Kante arriving, Law McCabe emerging as well, I think Dan Barlaser's stock is falling. And so I think if there was a suitable offer for him, I do think that he's someone who'd be allowed to leave as well. Tom Glover, he's someone that there was interest in earlier on in the summer. There's a World Cup coming up next year, and he has aspirations of being involved in that squad for Australia. So he's going to need regular first team football. I've never really been convinced by Tom Glover. When I've seen him in cup games and that sort of thing, he's been a little bit too easy to beat, in my opinion. I think he's very much third choice at Middlesbrough. Solbrin's the number one goalkeeper. Sene Dieng, when he comes back, assuming that he's in contention, I think it'll be him and Bryn who are challenging for the number one jersey, and Tom Glover's very much third choice. So I do think that if someone was to come in for him, there is the opportunity that he could leave permanently as well. Again, he's another player with just a year left of his contract, so there is a decision to be made there. Alex Gilbert, I think it's probably time that Middlesbrough make a decision on what's going on with him. 12 months ago, he was looking like he might be able to ignite his Middlesbrough career. He had a really promising start to last season and put in some really good performances in pre-season in the first couple of games of the season. But then he suffered an injury, which kind of came at the worst possible time, because it did look like he was ready to break into the first team, really challenged for a place in the starting 11, but that didn't happen. He then went on loan to Charlton Athletic, and while Charlton did amazingly well under Nathan Jones and managed to get themselves promoted, Alex Gilbert couldn't really force his way into the team, which is it was unfortunate, because Nathan Jones stumbled upon a formula that worked really well for them. They were absolutely unstoppable in the second half of the season, but it did mean that loan didn't exactly go to plan for Gilbert. And I think so far in pre-season, he has been a bit of a bit part player. He played against Hartlepool. Very much just not really part of Rob Edwards' plans, you can see so far. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. And of course, there'll be a couple of other players who could potentially head out on loan as well. Looking at Micah Hamilton, who looked promising in pre-season but didn't really follow through on it, and he just needs first team football now to really show what he's capable of. It's going to be a really important season for him. Sonny Finch, he could use with some regular first team football. He was on the bench against Doncaster, but he needs game time. Can't see it happening in Middlesbrough's first team, so I think he needs to go out. George McCormack, similar. He played against Doncaster, started the game at left back, but was quite poor on that night. He just looked really kind of caught out against, albeit a good Doncaster team, a side who are in League One and are going to be challenging. They only got promoted last season, but they're a good team, and he just looked a little bit raw, a little bit undercooked. He needs some game time. And Law McCabe, I think there's a decision to make with him as well. Did really well in pre-season. He will be in and around Middlesbrough's first team squad, but is there an opportunity for him to go out on loan, get regular game time, and show what it's about? Because once again, he's a player who it's going to be really, really important for him to get some game time and show what he's capable of doing. So a lot of decisions for Middlesbrough to make in the next few days. I'm going to have everything covered here on Bonkers for Boro. So if you have enjoyed this, then please do tune back in. I'm here all the time. I'm on YouTube. I'm on the Red Radio as well. So please do tune back in. We're going to have a big review of what's gone on in the transfer market next week, and I will catch up with you then.